boom, boom, boom. Hey, how's it going there, my friends? This is Dave Wood, and my intention with the video is to help you understand the war. Ignore my pointy Navy hat in the Navy. I actually don't even know where this hat is from. I hope the military doesn't think that I'm making fun of them, because I think they're awesome. Anyways, I just resolved some stuff in court today. I'm not really going to talk about it, but something that happened a couple of years ago, and I'm here to teach you how to find peace in the land of safety in the middle of war. And people, and that's why I'm wearing my military hat. I mean, I might go grab my sword. I mean, I don't know. I might grab the sword. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to grab the sword, but I might actually go grab the sword and just show you what to do. Right. So in any case, I went and resolved this stuff at the court today from this fight I got into a few years ago. I'll talk about it maybe in another video. I got to think that video through and then do it. And I went and resolved it today, and I went and resolved a bunch of other stuff today in the courts too. So this is very, very useful. But in any case, let me explain to you, first of all, why war happens. Okay. Let me explain to you why it happens, and then actually why some kind of war is necessary. Now, war can transfer. So in other words, we can transfer the war of fighting physically to the war of understanding mentally, to the war of action that creates peace, that's focused on not war, but just peace, for example. There's lots of ways to war in the consciousness, but remember that in Scripture, God is called, he says, I am the man of war. That's what he says. Okay, so God says, I am the man of war, right? And so that means something. So what's he warring against, and why is there war? So war emerges from people misunderstanding each other mostly. Okay, this is where it actually comes from. It generally comes from misunderstanding. See, in your consciousness, I'm explaining how war gets here for those of you that happen. Then I'm going to get into a lot of detail about the war that's going to come to the United States. And actually, I could give you some scriptural references to this, maybe, but maybe in another video. Right now, I just want to talk about it. I want to talk about it more freely. Okay. So let me explain to you why war emerges. So war emerges because it has to emerge from people who don't respect each other. Right. So essentially what happens is that in a land where everybody just respects each other, there wouldn't really be a need for war, because everybody's just respecting each other. And unless something came up, like, for example, somebody in that land wanted to take it over and evil entered the land. But if there's no evil in the land and everybody is just respecting each other, there fundamentally is no need for war. And that's why in the last days, people beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So in the last days, actually getting away from war is actually what actually happens. It creates peace. However, there's a lot that happens in between now and actually then. And evidence, like, for example, the war that I'll just say was in the past going on in Syria. It's still going on, but we'll just put it in the past. The war that was going on in Syria. If we all just did that, the war that was going on in the past in Syria, maybe it would just dissolve, right? And so, this war is there, and why? Because there's rebels who are essentially rebelling against they're rebelling against the Islamic system. They could be just rebelling against this particular leader. Right, I haven't looked up into enough of it. I understand that they're rebels, and that you have the rebels, and then you've got the supreme leader of Syria, right? And they're warring, and the cities are desolate. Like, this is biblical stuff. Like, there's the buildings, they're all having bombs dropped on them, and people, they're poor, they've lost everything. People continue dying. People are living in the middle of explosions day and night. Their air drums are just probably either adapted by now to it, or they just can't hear anymore. It's like constant explosions, constant rifles, and everybody's like, when is this going to stop? When is it going to stop? And the reason it's not stopping is because people are not respecting each other. And so let me give you an example. The rebels, they want something, and what do they want? Well, you'd have to look into what they want. And then the supreme leader wants something, and what does he want? He wants to stay in power. So the supreme leader wants to stay in power, and the rebels, what do they want to do? They want to take the power down, right? And these two things warring against each other without finding some sort of solution that stops the death of the countless amounts of people and land, right, is what would emerge from what the Buddha would call, for example, duality, right? Where one person wants one thing, the other person wants another thing. And because nobody is willing to just stand in the space and say, how can we give you both what you want? Then what happens is that people fight, right? They fight over and over and over again. They fight, right? Because nobody's willing to give both people what they want, right? Both people what they want. And that causes a lot of problems, actually. People not being willing to just allow other people to have what they want. They want to do it their own way. They want to be selfish. They want their own desires. And so what we want to do is we want to help people understand there is a way to create peace and there is a way to create safety. So let me explain the pattern that will emerge the wars. I just actually sent a letter to the President of the United States telling him what's going to happen in the future, because in the future, America is not going to be safe on the northern border. I've actually mentioned this previously in videos. I'm not mentioning really the southern border so much right now because Donald Trump is kind of handling this, right? This is his job to just kind of like get that wall built, right? But we have a border on the south, and there's a border on the north that needs to form. And it does need to form, because if there's not a border of some kind on the north, then what's going to happen? I mean, maybe pretty much, I think there needs to be something kind of, along the border of the property is what needs to be happening in the United States, except for, if there's a national park where they're doing snowboarding or something like this, you say this is co-owned, okay? And then they have the border a little bit of a different way. But the reason that this is because in the future, Canada will be a major danger to the United States, right? And this phenomenon, it doesn't have to be, though. Here's the thing. Canada doesn't actually have to be a danger to the United States. None of the stuff that I say, actually, the stuff that's really extravagant, none of it actually needs to happen. What needs to happen is people repenting. People changing is actually what needs to happen. When people change, a lot of these problems, they'll just dissolve. They'll just go away, right? And hold on a second here. So when people change, a lot of these problems, they go away when people change, right? That makes sense. So when people change, a lot of these problems, they go away, right? But the thing is that if people don't change, then we have a problem. See, as people, they wake up a little bit more. There's a way of awakening people where it's more soft, for example, than some of the stuff that I experienced earlier. And I've had some experiences where I've had resentful old energy and stuff like that coming out in the middle of awakening. I don't want you to mistake those experiences as the meaning of the whole awakening, okay? When people awaken, what happens is they start standing up for themselves, and they start doing it in a way that matches with wherever their energy is at the time. And if people have been really mistreating somebody, what'll happen a lot of times when somebody begins to awaken is the people will snap back, and they'll just act exactly back to those people like those people are acting to them. It'll be like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This is one of the things that will happen in society. Because people aren't paying attention to the teachings of Buddhism. I was talking to a Christian person. Let me give you an example of this the other day. I was talking to a Christian person the other day who was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then later he fell away. I'm not going to mention who he was because I don't want to embarrass this person if he ever sees this video or anything like this. Obviously, his personal identity and stuff like this will always be protected in the conversations. But this is a useful story for everybody to hear. So I told him there's some weird stuff about me. I met this guy in one of those 12-step group things or whatever. I stopped by and said hello to everybody. I'm going to go work those 12-step things, and because everybody wants me to, so I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? I might run into a little bit of difficulty because there's some things that I need to maintain in my life that some of those people would disagree with. However, I want to do the apologizing and I like the groups. I think they're very useful. And I think they're much more interesting than I used to think that they are, right? Because I pay attention better, right? So I listen a lot better, and I like the stories. It's fantastic. So, so in any case, what happens is that let me explain it. So I'm talking to this guy. I met him there, and he was driving me home or whatever, and I was talking to him, and then I told him there's some weird stuff, and he said, "Well, nothing you said is weird." And then I was like, "I haven't told you the weird stuff." So we had a phone call today, and I told him the weird stuff, right? Because he asked about it. Right. So I told him. And it made him nervous. And why did it make him nervous? Well, I think that it ignited some stuff in his life that was connected to pain that caused the nervousness. And I also think that he was very worried about what I'm saying. He had nothing really to say about it other than it made him nervous. Right. Because when somebody's model of the world gets disrupted, what happens is that sometimes they get a little scared, and that's okay. It's okay occasionally if somebody feels afraid in the past before they decided to change. It's okay to happen for it to manifest. For example, when people have a major awakening and they realize I was wrong about all this, I really mistreated people. Right? When somebody has an awakening like that, and then they realize that they went out there and they mistreated people. And then they needed to change it, and then they're trying to figure out how to change it. And then people are for example, they're scared of their awakening. They're scared of their new power. People that they need, people that they've needed for years, and then they need to learn how to shed their attachments and only need God and only need themselves. Right. So there's a lot that people go through when they go through awakenings, and what happens is that people start standing up for themselves. And sometimes they don't do that in a way that actually is proper. They don't stand up for themselves in a way that has like calm masculine energy, for example. And I've done that too, where I've exploded, for example, and I've got really angry. And this is not really masculine energy. This was like a bratty little child inside of myself that needed to grow up. So in any case, what happens is that people start really standing up for themselves, and they start coming. They start standing up for themselves, and they start talking to other people. And then what happens is that the other people around them, right? The other people around them, if they start talking to the other people and then the other people around them, right? They start standing up for themselves too. And then what happens is that there's a kind of a spiritual war. We battle not against principalities about powers, but against we battle not against principalities and powers, but against rulers in dark places, whatever the Bible says, right? So we're battling in the spiritual universe. There's actually a war going on all the time. Actually, it's quite intense. The angels are protecting people from the dark energy, and all sorts of stuff is going on around us at all times in the spiritual universe, 100% of the time. And there's a lot that goes on. The work of the angels, for example, there's a lot that goes on from the work of the angels to keep us safe. A lot more than anybody could imagine. God does a lot more to keep us safe than anybody can imagine. That's why he's God, right? That makes sense. And so what happens is that, and I consider myself a teacher of righteousness of the Almighty God, if that makes sense, right? So what happens is that people start standing up, they start having spiritual awakenings, then they start knowing things that are very specific. Like, for example, one of my friends died at what is this hat? It's something I got in the army. I got like an army hat over at a gold store. You know what I mean? I liked it because it had a little piece of gold on it. They didn't have one with platinum, or I would have bought that one to more respect but I'm not Islamic, really. I'm not, but I don't know the Quran as well as I know the other things. I'm focused on the other ones. So this one has gold. Like a Islamic person wouldn't wear gold. They'd only wear platinum or whatever, right? If they're a man or whatever, because they consider the gold for women, I think, is what they do, right? Yeah. Yes, I am. Right. So in any case, what happens is that people they stand up for themselves. And when people stand up for themselves and they're just like righteous, what happens is there's a field of safety that forms around them, and then around that field of safety on the outside, there's enemies that always form that are not righteous. This is always what happens, right? And this manifests, for example, in business. You got one business that is a competitor of another. My brother owns a guitar store. Then there's another guitar store in town, and this one does nasty stuff to him. and he doesn't respond in kind. He just focuses on himself. You know what I mean? My point is, and just forget about that now. It's fine. It's none of your business. But in any case, what happens is that the business of the righteous starts absorbing the money from all of the wicked, and then what happens is that the wicked get mad. That makes sense? And then they war against the righteous, and the righteous war against the wicked. And sometimes it's righteous people warring against each other, right? And then everybody's trying to take each other's business out and stuff like this. If it gets too intense, if they can't find a way to give everybody what they want, this is what happens. And then businesses collapse, currencies inflate, currencies collapse, civilizations collapse. And this all comes from 613 principles of righteousness that are taught in the Torah. I think that if we teach it like that, rather than just saying commandments, people will understand that there are 613 principles of righteousness in Torah, okay, that hold the universe in balance. This is actually what they do, okay? So this calm, peaceful energy that I've got right now, okay, this comes from a lot of things, resolving issues. It comes from training my consciousness to pay attention, right? Because my consciousness needs a long time to boot up, and then it stays kind of on fire all day. But it's like putting coal in a fire. It's like putting coal in a fire is actually what happens to my consciousness. Does this make sense to you? So it's putting coal. It's putting coal in a fire. It's putting coal in a fire. Okay. Putting coal on a fire, that's actually what this activated consciousness is really all about. It's like putting coal on a fire so you can pay attention. And so then your visual imagination kind of takes over, and your visual imagination starts rebuilding the universe around you, starts rebuilding your own spiritual kingdom, starts rebuilding your own personality, starts rebuilding yourself. So what happens is that the righteous are surrounded by enemies. Okay? And what are the wicked surrounded by? Themselves. That's what happens. The righteous are surrounded by enemies, and the wicked are surrounded by themselves. And they're all warring against each other. For a kingdom divided against itself can't stand. This is the phenomenon of the righteous versus the wicked. So here's the problem that's going to emerge in society when people start having awakenings. When people are sufficiently awakened, it will come to a point where society realizes and proves scientifically that the only way to keep society from destroying itself and rising and collapsing is to follow the 613 mitzvot and Torah. That's actually what's going to be the realization, because there's actually nothing else that can happen. So in other words, if the 613 mitzvot aren't followed, civilizations, they rise and collapse. We go through boom and bust cycles. In other words, there's no way to continue to exponentially expand forever unless the 613 mitzvot are followed perfectly and exactly. There's actually no way for it to happen. This is proven through history, through thousands of years, but people are ignoring it. It's actually all through the Bible. What I'm saying is now, this is not in one spot in the Bible. This is in the Old Testament. This is in the New Testament. This is in the Book of Mormon. This is actually everywhere that exists, teaches the same stuff. Everywhere it teaches it. Now, it doesn't always focus on it, but it actually teaches it everywhere. So what happens is that in the Navy, what happens is that you have war that begins to emerge. War that begins to emerge, right? You have war that begins to emerge. The war that begins to emerge, is from people who don't want to give the other party what they want. They want to force everyone to do it their way. They want to force everyone to do it their way through like social pressure. Okay? Through strong-arming people, right? Through sometimes boundaries that don't need to be constructed in quite that way, right? You know, they're trying to force people. Meeting in secret groups, things like that. You know, the central banking system, how did it start? A secret group, Jekyll Island, like 8 families or something like this. Now they own the entire world, and we're all in some manner enslaved to them if we have money. The only way to actually get out of their system, and you still can't get out, is to go do something like the Quakers, you know, or whoever they are, the ones that Amish. Go be like the Amish is pretty much the only way to get out of it. You can't really get out of it unless you're like that. You know, there's ways of doing it, but it's like so complex. You just got to like completely cut off contact with the system entirely. And then still you get trapped by it. They want you to pay land taxes. They want to enslave you whenever you get free. Right? So what happens is people start waking up to this. And then they got to start thinking they're either going to be pissed off or they're going to think there's a new way to do things. And then all of a sudden people are like, I'm going to go form my own secret group. Now you have a lot. The Book of Mormon prophesies about a secret combination in the last days that it'll be gigantic. Okay, it's in the Book of Ether. It's like a prophecy about secret combinations, secret societies. They'll just be like gigantic and take over the earth. But really, it's like there's going to be a lot of secret combinations because many antichrists will come. So people form secret combinations, right? Then those secret combinations try to take out the businesses, the righteous, and stuff like this. Now all of a sudden we got real issues because now everybody knows how to do what the billionaires have been doing for the last 100 years. Now society is like in this spot where there's pressure from everywhere to change. And what's that going to cause? It's going to cause people to be surrounded on all sides by their enemies after their field of safety. So the field of safety is the land of science. It's your personal scion that you build from your righteousness. Your field of safety that's like your field of safety that's independent from any external system itself. The self-sustaining field of safety. If you don't have something like that, you're not going to be safe. You know, in the last days, it says that no man can buy or sell unless they get marked the beast. So no man can buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast or the number of his name. So how can you survive? Your own field of safety is the only way to survive. Okay? Your own personal field of safety will be the only way to survive. Now, fascinating enough, it does not say that about women, but it does say that about men. Your own field. Hey, what's up, Feral Child? Good to see you. It's your own field of safety. Your own field of safety. Okay, your own field of safety forms around you. Okay, you're you're forming this field of safety around you. Your personal land of Sion. And then outside that land of, your own providence, your own spiritual providence, then outside of that land of safety, it'll be surrounded on all sides by enemies. Let me ask you a question, okay? Is Donald Trump surrounded on all sides by his enemies? Well, yeah. Right? Right? Yeah, he is. Right? Does Mark Zuckerberg have enemies? Yeah, he does. I think maybe Mark Zuckerberg is somebody that everybody kind of loves too, because they're thankful. But not everybody loves Mark Zuckerberg. Is Jeff Bezos surrounded on all sides by his enemies? After his field of safety, yeah. He has a big field of safety, Jeff Bezos does. Right? Am I surrounded on all sides by enemies? After my field of safety, yeah, I got a pretty big field of safety too. It's a different kind of field of safety. Okay? Than what most people have. Spiritual field, right? I've had some enemies, right? Sick might be a reptilian. Who's a reptilian? Well, here's the thing. Let me explain the reptilians. So somebody thinks this is David Icke stuff, okay? It's like the reptilians are like blah, blah, blah. Let me explain what happens. If people drink blood from unclean animals, Okay, keep your voice down. It's cool. If people drink blood from unclean animals sacrificed to idols, particularly, what'll happen is that the genetic material from those unclean animals will create. Oh, Zuckerberg is not a reptilian dude. Yeah, he's a righteous man. He might have had somewhere in his family line somebody that did something like this. Okay, but he's a righteous man. Mark Zuckerberg is. Yeah. We all have generational curses that are passed down from the fathers. Okay. So people, they sacrifice, for example, if they do sacrifice to particularly unclean animals, and then they drink the blood of those animals, the blood of those animals gets into their biology and infects their genetics when they do that. Hey, keep your voices down. Okay, thank you. So what happens is that these unclean animals, they get into the genetics of that person. That cross pollutes the genetics. This is why humans aren't supposed to drink blood. Now, this particularly happens if people are taking hallucinogens, plant hallucinogens. You say, why would that happen with plant hallucinogens? Because plant hallucinogens make your biology able to absorb and create whatever exists in your external environment. That's actually what they do. We're talking about plant ones. Okay, so somebody was taking peyote, somebody was taking plant medicine, whatever it was that they were taking, that would give that person the ability to absorb into their biology and cross-pollute the genetics of whatever exists in their immediate environment. So, for example, if somebody was drinking blood sacrificed, this is the New Testament talks about this, right, to idols, that would get into somebody's genetics, right, cross-pollute their genetics, and then that could form something like, for example, if they were drinking the blood of lizards, that could form a cross pollution and bring the blood from, and this is commonly known knowledge that billionaires, they take hallucinogens on a daily basis, right? So that doesn't mean they're all evil. Well, they're not. What that means is that it means that there's things that can happen to them if they fall. So the only real solution to keep yourself in a line, if you're doing what they're doing, is perfect righteousness. So when people figure this stuff out, they'll also figure out that that's a way, for example, to absorb the powers of animals. And there'll be a lot of people that want to absorb the powers of animals, right? There's already a lot of people that do. Shamans in Central America and stuff like this that they desire to do that. There's good shamans, there's bad shamans. I want to be clear. Not all shamans are evil or whatever. Shaman just means a teacher, So it's just a word. But they want to shape shift and be able to turn into a bird and, all this stuff that they can do, which fundamentally, I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with their desire to want to be able to do that. I think that the problem is that the way that they might go about doing that might not be the correct way of doing something like that, right? I think it'd be a better way to do it like another. I'd rather stay in the form that I was made, for example. That would be my preference, because I like it like this. You know what I mean? Anyway. So what happens is that now people are in society. You're going to get people that are absorbing powers from the animals on one side. You're going to get, and this is going to happen on good and bad. People are going to try to do it for good, but they don't really know what they're doing. And what's going to happen is people are going to start absorbing, animal powers. They're going to start to become more animalistic in large groups. A large group of society will become like this. And on another hand, you're going to have the enemy, the dark ones, right? I've talked about in previous videos. And then on the other hand, you've got the righteous, and they're forming their own powers, and it's going to come more slow in general than the people that are trying to go around the rules. But it's going to go better. So it's going to be better power, but more slow, because God builds people one line upon line, precept upon precept is actually how he goes about doing it with people. When they're ready, then their power expands. That's what God does. When it's not requisite that a man should run faster than that he has strength. That's what the scriptures say. Okay, so it's not requisite that we run faster than we can run faster than we have strength. This is fine for exercise, but it's not required, right? That we do it, right? God builds us at our own pace, and sometimes he gets us out there and we're not comfortable, but it's at a pace that he knows that we can handle. And then if we don't handle it, he backs down, and then we handle it and he pushes us back up again. This is what God does. Okay. So that takes time. This process takes time. And what happens is that people are going to want to be like, well, I don't want to go through all this personal development. I don't want to go through all this change. I just want the powers. I just want to increase instantly like this. And so what do? Then they turn to the enemy who's like, I'll give it to you. That's what he says. He says over there, he's like, I will give it to you quickly, And then what happens is that the people over there, they're like, sweet. And then they get trapped like they can't imagine. And then the karma comes back on them in a very, very dark manner. So this dividing of where people are at, and this is commonly known things. I mean, the Christians will say this too, that they'll be like, yeah, there's shamans with powers and stuff. And they'll say that these things are from the enemy, a lot of times. And I think that there's a balance in that. Like, I think that there's people that just are developing powers, and then there's people that are doing it from the enemy, and then there's people that are walking with God, and God is giving them those abilities as well. So there's this awakening that happens, right? And people, they have this problem with this model where it's like the spiritual awakening results eventually in people having all sorts of powers, right? Now, the only thing is that that's not the only thing that it does. It's just one of the things that it does, but it's one of the most powerful things that it does. And a lot of times people get lost in their pursuit of powers when they, for example, reach enlightenment. They get obsessed with proving their miracles are happening. They get obsessed with themselves. I went through a lot of this stuff, and now I'm like in a place where I'm balanced. I'm like, okay, I will prove it, and I'll do it in my own way. And I'm not detached. I'm completely unattached from all of this stuff at this point. And so because I'm unattached from it, I'm having the miracles speed up. For example, I had you can actually see it in my other videos. I've got the enamel that was like, and up at the top of my teeth, it was like just caved in, and all sorts of teeth here from when I was homeless, right? All that's grown back. Yeah, it's tooth now. Yeah, I could get some scans and show that it's new enamel. It's new enamel. It's new enamel all in my teeth, like it's all grown back. So there's old photos of this. All right, not enough because I haven't kept good records of this, But there's some photos and stuff. There's videos. There's videos of my channel where I show you, and then I figured it out. I figured out actually how to regrow the key to regrowing the enamel back quickly is actually the making sure they're cleaned properly, salt, oil, and believing that your enamel is going to grow back. Obviously, it helps a lot. But the salt actually is one of the things that does it. The salt and the oil, because the oil builds, it builds oil in the skin, and it builds structures that are strong like bones. Oil, it pulls the minerals and it builds things with them. In the biology, it does way more than just lubricate the joints. And so the oil plus the salt, flossing and stuff like this, it allowed me to absorb all these minerals. And then I just go and I eat everything in my environment. Like I eat everything. I eat roots, barks. I pull branches off of trees. I eat like the trees all day. So it's like I'm getting my minerals and all this stuff. I'm a little iron deficient right now, actually. And I'm going to probably take some supplements for that here in a minute. But I could take 100 iron supplements and it doesn't harm me. People are like, that would kill you. You get iron poisoning from that. I have no problem absorbing iron. I promise you that. Right? I take 100 of them and I'll be fine. I've done it. Then I get a little imbalanced and I need to balance it out with other minerals. My point is that would kill a normal person. It doesn't do anything to me but make me stronger. That's all that it does. Well, that's not all that iron does. Iron actually helps you focus. It helps you do all sorts of things. I would not encourage you to try this at home, actually. I would just, people can have all sorts of problems. If you're one of my students, then you've seen me personally, it's actually something different. You could do this too. But this is not something that I would encourage people to generally do. I would not encourage people to generally do this because it can cause great self-harm if they don't know what they're doing. Okay. My point is with this is that these are manifestations of physical powers, enamel growing back, my personality continuously getting more soft and loving over a period of time, no matter what happens to me, my skin getting younger. And you can't, this is not something that's actually so easy to see in the video, but it's actually very easy to see in person, particularly if you haven't seen me for a long time, particularly if I shaved or something like this. But I like the beard, right? The beard does make me look a little bit older or whatever, but it's fine. I actually kind of like the beard. You know what I mean? I like the way that it looks. You know, it's wild. I like being a wild man. So in any case, you know, this gives me a strong masculine spiritual energy. The beard does, right? So, so in any case, there's miracle evidence, right? There's miracle evidence. There's fruits in my personality and the changes. Like, for example, I was talking to a spiritual leader the other day, and you know, he's obviously nervous about some of the stuff that I'm saying. This particular person is, and they're a great friend of mine. But he said this. He says, "You do listen a lot better than you used to." And I said, "Well, yeah. If you actually were around me and you saw how I interact with people, I'm better at interacting with people by like 1,000 times than I used to be. However, there's some holes in it that I've had because I didn't want to. I was afraid of making money because I was so hurt from when I helped all these people and then those people walked out on me, you know, and I'm kind of at a spot where I'm a little bit over that right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not actually worried about it anymore. Right. What I'm worried about is I'm worried about the people around me getting results. And so because of this, my spiritual energy is coming back together in a way where I can make money again. Does this make sense? And so when I start making money, and actually, you know, I've been doing it whenever I want, but I've been kind of not making so much money because I've been focused on resolving some issues and stuff like this. And then once those issues are resolved, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to start really making things happen and really start making money and helping people again. Somebody says, is taking, you know, I'll say plant medicine almost like resetting the brain and bringing you back into oneness. Only if you use it properly in a spiritual thing. Because remember, plant medicine, if it's utilized spiritually, if plant medicine is utilized spiritually for spiritual purposes, it's legal. Okay, if you smoke DMT, for example, in most areas, this would be illegal and considered a Schedule 1 hallucinogen or something, you know, whatever it is. Okay, so you can get in a lot of trouble for that. But however, plant medicine, if it's used for spiritual purposes, is protected by 2 Supreme Court decisions. Okay, so plant medicine used properly, yes, absolutely, it resets. And there's a lot of techniques that I help students learn to utilize plant medicine properly. Like, for example, when I used to use plant medicine, I was always early in my awakening, I was trying to convince people that like what I'm saying is true and stuff like this when I was giving people plant medicine, right? Stuff like this, because I was like, I felt desperate because people were rejecting me and I didn't understand it because I was so accepted before. You know, when I was talking about what everybody wanted to hear, they were like, it was so accepting. And then when I went out there and I told people stuff that I had like discovered in this journey, I was just expecting these people. But you remember Jesus said, don't cast your pearls before swine, because the swine are not, the swine are symbolic of people that want to fight against you, crabs in a bucket that want to pull you back down to their level, people that want to say your dreams aren't true and stuff like this. It's just crabs in a bucket. You know what I mean? So I've been surrounded by crabs in a bucket. You know what I mean? Like, and then the people that are around me, they kind of stopped being like that because they realized that it was really hurting me pretty bad. Right? It was really hurting me pretty bad. And then when they realized that they were hurting me, you know, by just, you know, not letting me be myself. You know what I mean? It was like, you don't be yourself. You're not allowed to be yourself. You're not allowed to have these weird beliefs. You know, you're not, blah, 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 blah. You know, you got to fit in a little box. You got to fit in society's little itty bitty box. You know what I mean? And then what happens is that this phenomenon is going to increase because people developing the powers, right? And it's already starting to happen all over the place. What's going to happen? Other people are going to want everybody to be normal and they're going to want to shut it down. That's what's going to happen. And it's not just one kind of power. Like, we're talking about this is child's play right now still. The stuff that I'm doing right now in like 5 years, this is like itsy bitsy little bitty bitty child's play. Okay. In 5 years, I'll be able to just like push new bones out of my bone sockets and push my old teeth out and just replace them if I wanted to. Right. Or just supernaturally regenerate all my teeth and just heal everything. That's another way to do it, right? But I kind of feel like I need new ones. Right? So, but we'll see. We'll see. I like these ones too. I like my teeth. My point is with this, okay, if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you're listening to this message, okay, so people developing these awakenings, like for example, people, they awaken, and then you got phenomenon happening around you, like where people are awakened to their true spiritual identity. So what I do is I help my students awaken, and then I give them a new name, right? So I give them a new name, then they go by that new name, right? And that's what I call them. I actually call them the new name, and then they can use their normal name to their other friends or whatever. But I give them a new name for a new identity and a new purpose and a new way of life, right? A new name for a new identity and a new purpose and a new way of life. A new name for a new identity and a new purpose and a new way of life. A new name for, so this is what I do. I give people a new name, right? And a new identity. And then what happens is that people really start to do things totally different in their life. They start making more money. They start getting better jobs. They stop stealing. They stop taking drugs that are made by humans. You know what I mean? Because they have no need to. They tone down their alcohol. You know what I mean? Like I got one of my friends back here, and he was drinking all day and night a very short time ago, and now he can control it now completely, like that. You know what I mean? And just like that, he can control it. My friend who died, I mentioned him in my other video, right? So after he came back to life, he came. I mentioned this. He died in the desert. Was dead for actually nobody heard from him for like 6 days. He went to sleep in the desert and never woke up. That's what happened, right? And then like something like 5, 6 days later, 3, 4, 5, 6 days later, something like that, he woke up in the desert, right? And there was somebody there, and they were like scared, and he was alive. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, he came back to life. So first he came back, he was like maybe 20, 30 times more strong. And that was from a prayer of mine. And then what happened is then after that point, I did a ceremony with him. Okay. And then all of a sudden, like that, alcohol's not an issue. He can control it. You know what I mean? He can control it. It's just like not an issue, just like that. He can control it. You know what I mean? And so this is like the easiest thing in the world for me to do for people, and when I'm with him and stuff like that, I'm not taking my doctrine and I'm not saying here, just, you have to believe this way. I let him come to his own conclusions, right? And his own conclusions, they're going to be better for him because he is awakened. So he understands, but he needs guidance as well. Yet he needs guidance as well, because we all do. We all need a teacher. We all need guidance. We all need others. We all need love surrounding each other. You know what I mean? So my point with this is that, people form, there's fields of safety. Then what happens is people's enemies, they start attacking against each other. And then what happens is that people are awakening and the righteous are standing up for justice. Then what happens is that the wicked get more and more and more angry, and they plot greater and greater, more and more evil schemes. And this exponential expansion of intelligence, consciousness, love, as well as the people who follow the evil way in the past before they decided to change, it manifests in such a way where if those people don't repent, there must be a war between this side and that side, because there always must be an us versus them. Therefore, the Great Tribulation must emerge. And people, they have all sorts of ways of thinking about the Great Tribulation, not even realizing that many times in their life they're in Great Tribulation, for there is no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked. They don't even realize that. So what happens is that when we start to realize what we're doing to cause our own issues, then all of a sudden what happens is that those issues begin to automatically dissolve from the hologram of consciousness, because you're becoming aware of it. Because you're aware of it, it cannot continue to exist. So Let me give you some examples of some stuff that can happen to people, that cause problems, right? So, yeah, you can reset the consciousness in many ways. Meditation, you can reset the consciousness through faith, you can reset the consciousness through spirituality, you can reset the consciousness through love, you can reset the consciousness by caring about people, you can reset the consciousness through making love to your spouse, your partner, whatever you're doing. Right, reset through love, but really the spouse is the best way. You reset the consciousness through love with the spouse. You reset the consciousness through taking care of people. You reset the consciousness by doing positive things in your community, like, for example, going around and picking up trash. I walk around in this area, picking up trash all the time. You know what I mean? And it's very funny though, because the property managers, they don't want me here anymore. And whatever their reason is for this, it's the wrong reason. You know what I mean? They're making a wrong choice, because I was very good to the people around here, and I was very good to this place. And I make mistakes like everybody, but it's a really wrong choice for them. You know what I mean? But they don't want me here anymore, because the righteous are surrounded by people that always are trying to stop them from doing what they're doing. But here's what happens is the righteous, they prevail, and every plan against them only turns into an exponential expansion. That's actually what happens. So it turns into this exponential expansion. So in any case, what happens is that there's a story I would like to share with you. A story about peace and safety and change. It's a story about love and blessing and sex. It's a story about war and the land of Zion. So where's the ultimate manifestation of this field of safety increasing and the enemies increasing? Is the field of safety grows. The enemies are in littler areas, and they're angrier and angrier with more and more power. Right? Until, if they don't repent, they're destroyed. That's what's going to happen. That's in the Bible. They'll be destroyed at the coming of the Lord. The Lord God of hosts come back and destroy them. That's what's going to happen. Therefore, the exponential expansion of intelligence and love and mass and energy comes together in oneness and peace and blessing and honor and righteousness and power. So what happens in the end is just peace. However, in the meantime, for example, the United States is in danger on the north and the southern border. Just because something's not immediate danger doesn't mean that it's not in danger. See, the righteous, they plan years ahead of time. There's walls around Jerusalem for a reason. It's to protect Jerusalem from the enemies that surround her on all sides. There's only a couple things that could break down those walls. Number one, of course, an earthquake. But number two, right, everyone understanding that those things are necessary, and also we build bridges between peoples and give everyone what they want. That's the only way. It's the only way to do it. So when we give everyone on the earth what they want exactly, then all of a sudden, we are reaching a new space with a new energy, with a new story, with a new nation, with a new Zion, with a new you, a new you, a new you, a new you, a new you. Whatever you pour, I'm popping out the old you, it's popping into the new you, and the new you is expanding and saying, yes, I receive it. I receive it, Dave Wood. I receive it, Jesus. The new you. The new you that everybody loves. The new you that the enemies just forget. They're like, I thought I didn't like that person, but now I just think that they're awesome. One unique thing about me is even my enemies, they still love me. Everybody does. Everybody loves David. Except for they might be a little weirded out sometimes with some of the things I say. Because I am the Messiah David, the father of Jesus, and that scares some people. Because they don't want to hear my truth. It is not my darkness that they're afraid of. It's my light. It's the way that it works. My darkness, if I have any, can come out, and I have very little darkness at this point, though. It's not my darkness they're afraid of, it's my light. It's my forgiveness. Because they're afraid of changing themselves. They're afraid of letting go of their old model. I was talking to this person on Facebook in a comment the other day that I thought was Christian. And he's like, no, I'm atheist. That's what he said. He was atheist. And I didn't know that. You know, it's really interesting when somebody conceives an idea in their heart of godlessness. And then they look at the microscopic universe and there's little machines in cells doing things. It's very bizarre how cells work. They're like little machines in there. You got to go look at the videos and stuff. They're like little machines in the cells doing stuff. It's like, oh, that just happened. It was all chance. But nobody knows how the universe got here. No, they're not retarded or anything. They just need to change. And we need to change too, because why aren't they listening to us? Because our message is disunified. Because there's no scientific proof. Because we're not running together, therefore they're atheists. Because they don't listen to us. Because we don't listen to them. Because we think they're broken and they think we're broken. And really, in the past, we've all been broken. Hearted. Until we awakened. And got a new start in our life. Like a knife cutting through butter, warm. And now there's two where there was just one. Then you melt it back and you put it in a cube and then it's just one again. Oneness collapsing into a duality and duality collapsing back into oneness. More like oneness separating into duality and then duality collapsing back into oneness. In preparation for the coming of the Son of God. Who shall restore all things in heaven and on the earth, even as the prophets of old. For it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your old men shall dream dreams. A great awakening is coming. A great nation is birthing. Great change is coming to the nations of Israel. See, prophecy is not just about knowing the darkness that's coming. Prophecy is about knowing the darkness that's coming and being able to discuss it in a way where in the end it collapses back into the light of God. That's what it's about. The exponential expansion, intelligence, mass, biological increase, and magnetic righteousness of humanity. Hi, Red Planet. The red planet was once a blue and green planet. Mars also had a lot of red. A lot of iron there, I bet. And then the atmosphere was destroyed. There's nuclear radiation signatures on Mars. Evidence of life, skeletal remains, all sorts of weirdness. But they destroyed it. They destroyed it. They destroyed themselves. They destroyed each other. This is the end of a war that is not stood up to by the righteous and the people protected by God. So we're promised that as long as the earth shall stand, there will be spring and winter, cold and summer. All of it will be there as long as the earth shall stand. That was promised to Noah. Therefore, we're safe in some manner, but not like we think we are. We have an artificial schema of safety surrounding us on all sides. It's artificial. It's artificial safety. It's false security. It's a field of lies and deceit. Not all of it. I'm talking about the system. So I was in court today resolving this old thing. And the judge was like, "You want to meet again tomorrow?" I was like, "Let's just resolve it." He's like, "Sweet." It looked like his happiest session all day because he had somebody in there that came prepared to resolve it, and nobody else resolved it. They all were like lawyers and dragging on process. Let's just resolve it. So I signed a document. He signed. The prosecutor signed. We're good. Just resolved. 13 Resolutions for Life. Great book by Warren Woodward there. Right? If we resolve things. Now, here's what I was watching, though, when I was in court. I was watching a very good judge on top of a very broken system that doesn't resolve problems. It throws people in jail. Somebody stole something. It was something worth a decent amount of money. They could go in jail for a long time. She looked like a mom. She looked like a mom, you know. There's another guy that was selling marijuana, selling illegal drugs in Utah or whatever. He went there and I was looking at him and he's like, well, that guy might try to escape to another state. But he could actually go in jail for some time for that in Utah. However, it might be a first offense, so maybe the judge is merciful here because they're actually pretty good and merciful out here. And there are all sorts of other people up there, and they all looked scared, and I was very peaceful there. They're all looking nervous. Actually, there was one other guy that didn't look so nervous. But he looked a lot more nervous than I did. I wasn't nervous at all because I have absolutely nothing to hide. I'm so open all the time. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing. I'm open all the time because I'm open all the time. There's nothing to hide ever. People don't get that about me. That's why I do it. Because at the end of the day, people have a very difficult time getting mad at me for a long time. Say, why is that? Because I'm just open about it, exactly how I feel all the time, and all these people are scared to express how they feel, so they hide in caves a lot of times. Sometimes they meet privately, like in the attic groups or whatever, and they get all that stuff out. That's a good way to do it too. So I eat minerals like this. This is from a tree. Just break it off. I chew it. Maybe eat like 5 of these a day. These minerals make your skin and your bones strong like trees. Makes your hair stronger like branches. People are like, I need supplements for all this stuff. It's in the trees. It's in the pine needles. It's in the seeds, right in your backyard. Be very careful because you don't know what you're doing and you're not immortal. You might have problems. My students, they don't have any problems. They just eat whatever they want. All of them. Whether they're taking plant medicine or not, they can do it. They can go eat any poisonous thing. It doesn't hurt them. Well, I don't want to take the man-made stuff, right? So somebody was like the other day, they heard me say that. They're like, that sounds like you've got a problem. It's like, how long does this need to happen before you die? And it's like, well, they're like, you're getting older. I was like, actually, no. My enamel grows back. The ring size on my hand is more like I was when I was like 18. No, I'm not. I'm getting older in the sense that my years are going by. So yes, I have more age physically because I have more years. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about my biological body and the youth level that it appears at to people that are actually local to me, which is much better than it appears in video, right? However, I still look a little messy and I would look a lot more young if I shaved this thing, but I like it. Oh, qué lindo. Qué lindo esto. Right? So, my point is with this, people need a lot more minerals in the future. The only way to get it's the trees. Unless they're going to eat the bones of animals or something like that. But the animal supplies are drying up. So the only way that we're going to be able to protect everybody is helping everybody learn to be vegetarians. It's the only way that we're going to create a sustainable diet that we're never going to run into problems. Now, we can create a decentralized farming system where people can eat animals that are treated well. If they participate in the decentralized farming process. You know what I mean? Hey, look, if you want to eat an animal, raise it and kill it yourself. Too much of a coward to do that, maybe you shouldn't be eating meat. I would never do that. It's an animal. As they're eating a piece of chicken, No, this isn't chicken. I bought this in a store. It was in a plastic package. The store made it. I promise there's people out there that think that. They don't even know what this stuff is. They're like, what is this? It's an animal? Oh my God, no. It's chicken. It comes in plastic. The store made it. No, that was something that flapped its wings. When I think about a chicken, I think about a chicken running around in the park. Now, here's the thing. If I raised an animal to teach my son how to do it or something like that, and then I killed it myself and drained the blood out myself or something like that, would I eat it? Of course. And then I eat the bones and the tendons and everything, like the Native Americans used to do. And then I'd make skins with the skin. I'd make coats with it to protect them from the warm, and every part of the animal would be used. It would be done in a way that was sustainable. Of course I would do it. Oh, thanks, man. Told you so, Dave. You're doing awesome. Oh, awesome. I love all these people with all the weird names and stuff like that. This is probably all my some of these guys are like my secret followers, the rich friends. My point is with this, right, is that when something comes at you that really harms you real bad, what do? There's two options. Number one is just cave in and give up. Number two is to change. Collapse or change. Those are the options. Demi-goddess, how you doing? All right? Collapse or change. Those are the options. So, are you going to let the universe collapse in on you? Or are you going to change? Are you going to let the universe collapse in on you, or are you going to change? That's the question I have for you. So society has not been listening to the prophets and the prophetesses. They've not. Okay? They've not been doing it. Some of them are doing it. America thinks they're doing it because they're all Christians. Change, yeah. I was talking to a very good friend of mine the other day, female. And, somebody, been a friend of mine for years and years and years and years and years, long distance. And I was talking to her and I was like, you go to church? And she was like, no. And then we were talking about why. And we were very clear why she didn't go to church. Because it's just imbalanced everywhere. Everywhere is imbalanced. This is what people don't understand. It's like every model that people have for spirituality that is out there is in some manner lacking the balance of the other spiritualities. This is why people at large scales are quitting going, in many of them, not all of them, are quitting going to church every week, because they go to church every week and they go to a Christian church, for example, and it's like the same sermon repeats every year, for example. They read the whole Bible 5 times and then they're like, I kind of know what's in there, but they don't really, but that's what they think. And then they go off and they find some, young hot thing to chase. And then they get distracted and then they just forget about it. And they're like, why am I bothering? So my friend, I just hid this user, mass turbate. Yeah, there's this user that's probably Nephilim. The Gospel of Thomas is the hidden key, right? I just hid this person because they were writing, again, this hateful stuff in the comments. And I would encourage you to not do stuff like that if you love me. Okay? Just let me be myself, and let's clear the spiritual energy here for a second. Throw that into a pig. Okay? Don't do that because this disrupts the flow of the video. It's rude. Yeah. All right. Pigs are great. Hey, love you too, Demi-goddess. All right. So here's the thing that you do. Yeah. The best place to cast demons are into pigs because they stick there. That's what the pigs are for. One of the reasons why they're the unclean animals, they do that. They can trap demonic energy. And so I've done all sorts of deliverances on people, and I find that when they go into the pigs, right? Well, it's really not really a poor pig. It's they're there for a reason. If they didn't deserve it, they wouldn't be experiencing that. They deserve it. 100% of them. It's the consciousness. The consciousness deserves it. The new incarnation of the pig not necessarily does. But the consciousness, deserves it. That's why it's there. That's why it's happening. People always deserve it. This is the thing that we want to understand. So let's stop talking about the unclean animals now and just bless them and release them and forgive them and say hello and We love you. We bless you. And you'll be free soon. Right? Yeah, they deserve it. It's not, there's, there's a thing like, for example, well, we're not going to talk too much about that because I don't want to get in the dark, but society deserves actually things coming at society that are somewhat dark that come at society. Because if society didn't deserve the darkness that's coming at society, there would be no darkness in society. Why do they deserve it? They deserve it because they're not listening to the prophets, the saints, right? Not all of them are. Some of them are. But everyone's only listening to the ones that they want. That's the problem. They're not listening to all of them. That's the problem. Because they're not listening to all of them, their beliefs are all imbalanced. The awakened ones have more balanced beliefs, but they know they're always finding the balance. That's what they know. Right? So they're simply awakened and they're on their journey. However, the imbalance is caused because all of these various belief systems do something massively imbalanced in general. For example, Christianity, America was a Christian nation, and look what we did to the Native Americans. Look what we're doing to the rainforests. Look how much we're polluting the oceans. That's imbalance in Christianity that's doing that. You got to understand that it is imbalance in all the belief systems in North America that are doing this. Not just Christianity. Do Christians a lot of times clean that up? Oh, yeah. However, they don't think they need to because they're like, when Jesus comes back, he's going to fix everything. So let's just dump sewage all over the streets and build sewers that reach the skies. I mean, come on, It's ridiculous. God wants us to fix things. Man was put on the earth to till the earth, to work, to build things, to fix things, to resolve things that they start, to make things better around them than when they showed up. For example, when I leave this apartment, there's a permanent spiritual energy here that will be very good for everybody who ever stays here. Be a lot better if they just preserved this in an exact replica. None of these people have any idea how famous I'm going to be. They pop on this and they judge it for the small amount of viewers. And they don't even realize that I've not even started my movement yet on purpose. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the right time. Because they that wait upon the Lord shall receive their strength. And it's almost getting there. Because I found the key to unlocking the movement now. And that's going to be my alignment with Michael. That's what it's going to be. And other leaders that really matter. Bringing a new alignment to build the kingdom to build nations. Separation and balance, separation between kingdom and nation. Thinking through every single part of the plan from top to bottom. Realizing that if we don't change, everything we love will be lost. Time is running out. It's been a ticking time bomb for a very long time. Time is running out. So what can we do with that? We can ask God to extend it. Say, now it's extended. Just so we have just enough time to get it done. Because time is running out and it's extended. People are like, my brain can't handle the two things being at once, and that sounds contradictory. You know what I mean? People are so confused by their own trapped box logic. This is the way that it is because I have this box that's 2 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 2 inches tall. And if it doesn't fit in that box, it can't be true. That's how all of society is. No, not all of them. That's how a lot of them are. You know, I have a box. It's 2 inches wide, 2 inches long, and 2 inches tall. And if it doesn't fit in that box, it's not true because my interpretation of the Bible is the right one. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Remember that our ways are not the ways of God. Our thinking is not his thinking. Our ways are not his ways. So whenever we come in and we say, we know it all, that's the moment when you should realize, and we should realize, that we actually don't and can't for a reason yet until we get there. For none knoweth the thoughts and intents of a man's heart save God. So here's the thing. You get the energy out. Get the anger out. Somewhere. Talk to somebody. Pick up a phone call. Have a conversation. Say, I just need to express something. Can you listen to it? I'm going nuts. Build relationships. Give value. Build communities. Help people. Heal nations. And then at the end of the day, work's over, you take off your hat, and then you say, in the Navy, the military's awesome, isn't it? Military's awesome. See, I love the troops because they protect the freedoms that we have, and they really do. However, is war really necessary? Yes and no. It's necessary because people don't listen to each other. And because occasionally there is a great evil that arises. There's a great evil that arises. And when that great evil arises, then the war becomes necessary. For example, was it necessary that the United States got involved with World War II? Yeah. Say why? Very good chance that the Nazis would have taken over Europe. Hitler was good. He was good at what he did. Not good like a good influence. He was good at what he did. Therefore, we had to get involved to stop it, because otherwise we wouldn't have been safe. Because after he'd taken over Europe, he would have taken over South America, he would have taken over Canada, he would have surrounded the United States on all sides, and then he would have ran and invaded the United States. That's the way Hitler was, with evil. In the past, before we all decided to change and stand up to him and wipe him out. I'm done because I've noticed that there's a couple of people that have been falling off because they're getting tired. So I'm going to end with a story of peace. So create your own scion. Create your own field of safety. Create your own aura of masculinity. Create your own story. Like, for example, everybody's all running around and everybody in America they're just desperate for sex day and night. They're like, I can't get enough of it. You know what I mean? They post photos where they're just laying like with they practically got their legs open on Facebook. I mean, it's like almost like everybody just wants to just get a slut tattoo and post some photos. You know what I mean? Really. It's not about like whether or not it's cool to have sex. It's about like really people need to be more balanced about it. They need to learn to control it. In my opinion, if you can't go without it, if you want, for a period of time, when you want, you ain't grown up. You're a child. You never learned to control your own impulses. It's not about, do people really want to stop having sex? Obviously, they don't want to stop having sex. They want to keep having sex. This is the point of life. And I would never encourage anybody to do a different thing than make sure their sexual energy manifests in a greater increasing way of it's in proper channels, right? My point is with it is that people can't control their own behavior. So I stayed celibate for like the last 2 years. I'll stay celibate till at least, September this year or something like that. Because right now I'm actually getting kind of a power from it because I've learned to control it and I've learned to manifest more peaceful energy through it, even when because the Kundalini energy is very intense, right? And I've learned to manifest it. So I'm trying to learn to control the composure from it, like, for example, the Pope does. And then once I've kind of mastered that, then obviously I'll wind up getting married again. And then, have a bunch of kids and whatever. But right now I'm controlling myself. You say, why are you controlling yourself? Because I want. Not because I have to, but because I want. Because I think it's the right thing to do. Give time and space to heal, resolve issues, and see what happens. That's what I actually think is the right thing to do for me. And when you realize that you can control yourself, when you can master yourself, when everything that you can do, you can get done by yourself, then all of a sudden you realize you now have the ability to be a master to others because you've mastered yourself. You've mastered your own kingdom. You've mastered your own Zion. You've mastered your own dominion. You've mastered your own life. And because you've mastered yourself, you are now starting to master others. Tony Macaroni says, King David, more like King Cuckoo. Look, the funniest thing about your name is it's Tony Macaroni. I mean, I know this is a fake account. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? Tony Macaroni. It's like you got a fake account, right? You're coming here in the end of a video where you've been watching the whole thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Are you in the Civil War? Well, if I wanted to, I could ask God to create a civil war and war would break out all over America. What happened? I don't do that. I'm just warning people about what's happened because the hat in the Navy. It's awesome. So people are like, Dave, you got to cut this beard. It's like, it actually looks a lot better in person than it does in the video, to be honest with you. It does look better in person. I don't have the right light for it and stuff like that. I probably need beard oil or something like this. It actually looks decent. It's starting to look okay in person. It's a little bit sloppy up here, but it's starting to fill out. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of like seeing where this beard goes, and then maybe at some point I'll trim it, and maybe I'll just let it grow like a wild man for like a little while and see what happens, because it works well in the streets. People are very nice with me when I walk up with the beard on the streets. You know what I mean? It looks like a masculine, calm, spiritual energy. You know what I mean? People are very, 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 very attracted to me. You know, people around me. You know what I mean? So this war that's going to break out, I'm talking about internal, external, from every direction at once. everybody standing up for themselves in an exponentially expanding way. Now, there's a right way to do that. There's a wrong way to do that. The right way to do it is kind of like how I'm talking right now. The wrong way to do it is while people are going through these awakenings and their spiritual energies like breaking apart in old patterns and stuff like this, and they're realizing who they are and what they can actually do. You know what I mean? The wrong way to do that is people getting all pissed off and everything like that. But here's the thing. That's also right, because they need to do that if people aren't listening. Eventually, something like that needs to happen. As long as they're listening to others and people aren't listening, eventually just all hell needs to break loose if people don't listen to the right thing. That's actually the way it's always been. All hell breaks loose when people don't listen to the spiritual teachers in their immediate environment. That's what happens 100% of the time. All hell breaks loose. It builds and 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 builds. People walk in denial, and they walk in denial, and they walk in denial. Their civilizations collapse. Their businesses collapse. It gets more and more difficult to market the same products. And then what happens is it all comes crashing down. And everything starts to break apart. And then a newness begins to form. And then people that were in great pain begin to change. So, for example, let me give you some examples of some stuff that can happen, right? Okay, Tony Macaroni, this is his name, Tony Macaroni, says, don't over-intellectualize. You seem to focus on rituals and ego. Focus on being aware and living as an American. That's also a good focus, Tony. I think that I seem to focus on the rituals and the ego. What are you even talking about? That's not what this video is about. So in any case, explain to me what you're talking about, though. I want to understand you. So Tony Macaroni, I want to understand you. I mean, what's your real name? Come on. I mean, that can't be it. If that's your real name, forgive me for making fun of it. It's a hilarious name. But if your name is really Tony Macaroni, I mean, that's awesome. You know what I mean, isn't it? So what my point is with this, and I'm almost done with this video. I keep delaying it. You know what I mean? I keep delaying it. What's really important to understand for people is that we're all in a place right now. Oh, the pictures, the hat, the robes, your personality all reflects a strong ego with a focus on reinforcement from rituals. Oh, yeah. Well, so first of all, Tony, let me explain something here. I'm not focused on ego, okay? I simply have a large ego, which is, there's not a problem with that, actually, right? If ego is misused, ego can become a problem. But if ego is utilized properly, ego is actually not a problem whatsoever. The Lord God of hosts has a big ego, doesn't he? We're made in his image. You know what I mean? What matters is that your self-esteem is big, right? So the hat, the rituals, all this stuff. Let me explain it. There's certain personalities where rituals are very good for those personalities because they need the personalities to balance themselves out. They need it to balance themselves out. So a ritual would be waking up in the morning at the same time in the morning every day, which I didn't do for a long time, and now I'm actually starting to do. So I'm waking up like, I don't know, 6 o'clock or something like that in the morning. Generally, I wake up, right? And I generally, as time goes by, I've seemed to need less and less sleep, and I've seemed to get more and more rest at less periods of time. That's what seems to happen to me. Okay, I'm figuring it out. So, and sometimes I actually don't even need sleep. I can just meditate all night, and I'm fine. And I regenerate, and then I probably would need sleep like once a week, a lot, or something like that if I did that. Okay, so the strongest, yes, there is. The strongest people have a formless ego that can adapt to both master student and keen observer. I can also do this, right? It's very easy for me to do, and it's a very good observation, okay? However, let me explain those. So the rituals, for example, if I don't do some kind of exercise in the morning and exercise a couple times a day and eat in certain patterns and stuff like this, my energy is just, it just falls all over the place. There's certain rituals that I need to have to maintain my energy in a direction. I used to manage that, for example, through substances. So for example, I managed that through caffeine or whatever it was. Stimulants is really how I manage it. Now I manage it from myself. I manage it actually from my rituals is how I manage it. So the rituals, they take over, and the rituals give the brain the ability to do the things that people could have done only when they were depending on something, right? So for example, if I don't wake up in the morning and do a certain kind of meditation, exercising my visual consciousness in the morning, my brain is just like distracted all day, no matter what I do, right? Now, over a period of like 3, 4, 5, 10 years or something like that, I could probably rebuild the function of the frontal lobes of the brain to an extent where the changes that I create in my neuronal structure are complete and permanent. And then I just kind of like wake up and I've got all those patterns. However, if you stop using the consciousness, it will default to go back to how you were born, essentially. And I was born to need to use all of my brain every day until I'm exhausted. That's actually how I was born. I was born like this. Right? I've always been like this, right? So it's a psychological dependence on habit. It's addiction to soothe one deep unresolved issues like rubbing one's arms or wrapping a foot. I don't necessarily agree with this, Tony, right? It's not addiction to rituals. The rituals are there. I'd be interested in who you are, actually, because these are actually very good comments. However, these saying that a ritual is really useful to you because you meditate. I mean, the most successful people I know have rituals in the morning and the night. My father had rituals in the morning. Gabriel Cousins has rituals and routines that he doesn't change in the morning. Maybe he takes rest from them occasionally, and he plans in advance changes in his routine, but he has fixated routines because those fixated routines, they put the consciousness in such a way as to where you're moving on all gears. For example, okay, let me explain something. And I'm explaining this to you because I know myself a lot better than you know me. Okay, I'll just say that. Okay, you know you better than you know me, than I know you. I know myself better than you know me. And my brain needs to be booted, and it takes time to boot. Okay? Any other way of doing things ends up in my life not working out the way that I want over the long haul. My brain needs to be booted out in a structured way in the morning, and if it doesn't happen, right? If it doesn't happen, I don't get the results that I want in my life. And that's been tracked over a period of like the entire span of my life. So there's not anything that I think in the near future necessarily that's going to change that, although there is a time in the future when I will transcend the need to do that. Okay? Because I'll figure out how to do it all the time. I'll figure out how to do it. Right? Except for in rest cycles that are timed and sequenced and planned, and then I'll just wake up and my brain is booted properly. Right when I wake up, or I'll figure out how to do it in my dreams, or something like that, over a period of time. However, I'm in the process of transcending that. So these aren't actually dependencies. These are habits that are forming because I didn't form some of these habits in my youth. So I'm forming the roots of habits into my brain in order to be able to do that in the way that I want. This is my interpretation of it. However, this is a very good comment, and I like your comments, Tony Macaroni. And of course, that's because one of the reasons I like your comments is because your name is so hilarious. So anyways, everybody here, I got to go. Actually, I got to go do my evening routine right now. So I have an evening routine before I go to bed. It's like a meditation habit that I do. And sometime I'll do it with you, but right now I'm just going through training and I'm doing it myself. And so I'm figuring out what I want this routine to be in the future. And I'm going to start writing more blog posts and stuff like that, because I haven't been writing blog posts, on my blog lately and stuff like this, because, I went through a period of very intense pain and suffering. And my heart energy is clearing out from that, but there's still quite a lot of pain in my heart right now. And so, keep me in your prayers, keep me in, keep me in your prayers, and keep, the future strong and bright in front of you. And of course, now I'm going to take my hat off, my pointy hat, that I have my head there. And I'm just going to tell you that, you're awesome. You're awesome. And you can do great things. You can be as powerful as you want. You have the ability to do anything in the world that God calls you to do. even if it sounds hard, and even if it sounds very difficult, and even if you have lots of persecution, and even if people turn against you, and even if your best friends turn into your enemies for a while, and even if you're surrounded by enemies on all sides, and even if there's war and missiles breaking out, and the North is divided against the South, and the East against the West, and families are being torn apart, you can stay calm like the center of the storm. See, one of the best things about where I'm at right now is I'm peaceful no matter what's going on. I'm preparing for war. That's what I'm doing. That's why I eat poisonous things, because if I eat the poisonous plants, this is where all the poisons come from generally that people try to poison you with. And so my body is actually adapted to poison. Much more difficult to do anything to me. And it makes my skin harder and stronger over a period of time, especially over a period of 10 years or stuff like that. So it becomes more and more and more difficult. And you say, Dave, that sounds paranoid. No, I'm actually not paranoid at all, because I'm not actually worried about these things. I'm just simply describing them to you so you can understand what I'm actually thinking, and maybe enjoy the process of thought with me, and maybe build a more safe Zion surrounding, of course, yourself. Love you.